Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers at SF DocFest. We happen to be celebrating 20 years of bringing independent films, particularly independent documentaries, from around the world here. And so it's always exciting when we find films kind of from our own backyard. And with it, we have some of the filmmaking team here to be able to kind of share a little bit about the making of the film. So if we can welcome co-directors Kay Cleave and James Daggett. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thanks, Chris.
Thank you for having us.
And James is up in Alaska right now, and Kay's down under in Australia, but half the year, Kay's in normal times is in Oakland. So she's Bay Area based.
Yeah.
So maybe a good place to start is, what made you realize that there was kind of a story here to be told as a documentary? And then how did you guys come together to collaborate, and how did that work?
Oh, you want me to start, James?
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Chris, because this is, of course, a question we get asked lots. And
Yes.
we never set out to make a documentary. James and I got to know him quite a few years ago. Every year, a group of us from the Bay Area go and camp in Yosemite. So James's parents and James and his sister would be part of that group, and I was. And so I got to know him as a young boy, and I knew he was interested in film. I knew he went to Chicago University. And when I got into this whole project and raising funds for the school, I initially went up to the village to choose the site. And if you watch the documentary, the journey is grueling. That's it's a really tough journey by little plane, and then a very scary bus ride, and then a hike up a very, very big hill, a mountain. And so I did it once, and I thought, that's it. I told many people I'm not going again. I survived it. And a year later, when the school was built, Prakash, the young man who's from the village, really wanted me to come up and officially open it. James, do you want to go on?
Yeah. So I was actually had kind of almost left the world of film. I had given up a bit because it's very competitive and scary, and I wanted to sort of give myself time to explore some other things, and Kay decided to reel me back in. I was teaching English at the time in Vietnam, and got an email from Kay saying, hey, would you like to just come and film this journey? We didn't really know that was going to ever turn into a documentary. We just sort of, I think Kay felt that it would be good to have on film. And I was like, yes, I will go to Nepal because it's beautiful there. And I had heard of this project of her raising money in her daughter's name for this kindergarten. So I was like, well, this would just be an amazing opportunity. And then I think once we got down from the mountain, we started seeing like potential. I think over the coming months, we saw like, hey, this could actually be a longer project. We could try to eventually, we decided to go back 20 years in time and fill in the whole story.
I'll break in there,
Yeah.
Because when we came back, I really did think this would just be for my own record for when I'm an old lady and I get to see, wow, I did that journey. But when we came back and looked at the footage, I didn't know what a brilliant cinema photographer James was. So we had this beautiful footage of the mountains and everything. And as James said, we thought maybe, we've got to, I think it was you, James, said, we got a bigger story here. And I said, well, let's go for it. And it was so organic.
Yeah. I feel that it was, we had a few interviews in Nepal, but it was like, oh, we should really do more. So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience of just fleshing out the story over, I think, about 2 years worth of time.
What was interesting fleshing it out too is that after we went up to came back from Nepal, I came back to Australia, which I do every year for half the year. James was in California at the time, in fact, living in my apartment in Oakland. So that's how we started editing this. We would talk over a Zoom, or it was actually Skype or something then. and let's do this. And then James would cut it and edit it a bit and send it back to me, and I would look at it and say, well, that looks, okay, but why don't we do that? And I'd send it back to him. And that's really what we did for 2 years. And early on in the process, we grappled a lot with, well, what's this story about? And it got clear it wasn't about my daughter, and it wasn't about the Prakash in the school. It was about the mother's journey. And it's very early on, we came up with the idea that there's 2 journeys here. There's the mother's emotional journey and the mother's physical journey up the mountain to open the school. And so I think I started interweaving the 2 stories. And so that's how we made it. And we've had a lot of feedback that that's a really nice structure.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, it isn't always easy to kind of turn the lens on yourself. And at what point in time, like, were you hesitant at all about being filmed, or or were you excited about it, or did you just overcome whatever trepidations because of the kind of larger importance of this world we could immerse ourselves in?
Oh, thanks, Chris. That's another great question. And all of that, while the James, when we met, before we went up the mountain, and I said, there's just, your job is just to film. So I said, I'll probably cry in the journey and whatever, keep filming. He said, okay. I said, I'll probably stumble, possibly fall down, keep filming. He said, oh, okay. And I said, even if I fall over the mountain, keep filming. He said, okay. And so it was such a delightful collaboration of up the mountain. And I really didn't think this was going to be for anybody else. So when we really decided, yes, let's make this into I think we both thought it could help a lot of other people. And so that was when I started thinking about, oh my goodness, can I say that? Do I want to make myself so vulnerable? And I grappled a lot with that over the time, and also with the ethical questions of, do I have the right to say this story, including my daughter, who hasn't got a voice, who can't say, well, hey, that's not how it happened, or I don't want you to say that. So it was, for me, internally, there were many, many questions, and many times I thought, we'll make the documentary, but I'm not going to let it out of the cupboard. And you're right, I ultimately came to it for the bigger good that I know when Catherine died, I would have loved a film like this, just to show you're not alone, that there is a way forward. When something so big and sort of devastating happens, you just struggle to find ways to go forward. So, I'm still nervous about releasing it, and I can't. It is very raw and honest, but I do trust, and that it is a good film, and that we've had wonderful feedback. So.
Well, I think
James, did you want to?
Yeah, actually, I will add. I think it's a lot of this is encapsulated in this scene of towards the end of the film where Kay effectively breaks down, that solidified, I think, a lot of things. Our decision to include that in the film, because at the time of filming it, I was still, Kay and I were still sort of getting to know how each other worked. I was treating it as shooting a documentary, doing interviews here and there. And we had actually just done an interview right in front of the school. And then this happened, which was purely organic, was not planned. It was just a complete breakdown. And I took her advice and I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep filming. I'm going to go through it I asked a few questions here and there as it was happening. But over time, I think we realized that that one moment, and many other moments in the film, but kind of I see as kind of the climax of the film. It is a raw emotional moment that would not have necessarily been captured, had there been someone else there with Kay, right? So there's that other person. And there's also just like a rawness to the seeing it in the film as it stands now. We decided to include it. We went back and forth. We thought ultimately the purpose of this is to hopefully help people and to show in like grief in a very raw form. So yeah, I think that I would point to that moment as both where our working relationship was solidified, and then also like kind of the point of the film in that scene.
Well, I think there's a nice intimacy to so much of what you captured, in kind of figuring out the visual language or storytelling language for the film. Were there documentaries or fiction films or novels that kind of inspired you, or you're like, I really liked what they did here, and you brought to it? Was there any kind of inspirations to either of you as kind of artists or filmmakers that influenced how you approach the story?
I can't think of anything specific, Chris. I love documentaries and I watch a lot of film. I'm also a writer, so I've done a lot of, I know how to construct a story. But I'm sure many of the documentaries, I have watched, have influenced it. But I have to say, we were so lucky. One of my friends is actually, the couple is Jim Lebreck and Sarah Boulder, who did Crip Camp. And so we're in very, very good company. They were fabulous. Sarah was my consulting producer, but being able to, just bounce ideas off. And we did a lot of that with just talking to different people. And, should we do this? What about this? Whatever. But I can't think of a specific film. I don't know about you, James.
Yeah, I find it hard to think of anything specific right now, but that sort of structure of, these parallel storylines and going back and forth between the two, that was definitely helped. Jim and Sarah definitely helped us develop that. And yeah, I wish I could think of a film, because there's so many good ones that use that sort of structure.
But I think mostly we just work with the footage. We had this incredible footage that we didn't plan. That's the exciting thing about a documentary, is you set out to do one thing, but you really don't know what you're going to end up with. And there were many ways that this made different turns as it does, and a lot of stuff, of course, got cut. A lot of stuff I loved, but in the servicing of a story, so much has to go. But pretty much we worked with all the what we had and whittled it away.
And as people get a chance to kind of see the film and share it, outside of this kind of special story and your own processing of grief and you remembering your daughter, what would be the big takeaway with the audience of like how they live their lives that you all would like them to kind of keep in mind and going forward?
Another great question. It could go on forever, this answer. I feel very passionate that our society, our Western society, is really got it wrong in terms of this whole idea that we're supposed to put on a face and shove everything down, which of course we need to function. Absolutely, we put on our professional face, but if we don't make space or safe places where we can, and we just get a backlog, just holding it down. We know now with the literature, there's a lot of research that says that isn't a healthy way, but I think we know it intellectually, but to really honor it and to, that we all have losses. If we live long enough, we're going to, have heartbreak. And if we love, we're going to lose. And so for me, what I would say is this is a little look into how somebody has really confronted bit by bit. Somebody said to me a while back, she said, it's a bit like staring at the sun. When you can't do it long term. So you look at it for a little while, and it's a bit the same with your pain. You look at it for a while, and the tools I have, of course, are yoga, meditation, writing. I have many, many tools to process this. But I think that's what I would say, is that we all need to be able to process and care for our inner life as much as, and develop that muscle, that emotional resilience, so that when we get to tough times, and we will, there are ways that we can deal with it over time, and it takes courage. I think courage of heart is something that to face these things. It's so much easier. Oh no, I'll just go away and watch a movie, or I'll go and eat, go and drink, and I'm not putting those things down. They're all useful. But we do need to honor this, and that's the thing I would say to people.
Yeah, and to just add on to that, I think a really important part of where we eventually got the film as you see it today was including a lot of the backstory of Kay and Catherine, and especially including as honest of a sort of representation as we could, which includes joyful moments. And I think that this is a very heavy movie. It's a film that is absolutely diving headfirst into this very personal story of grief. But like Kay says towards the end of the film, I sort of consider the resolution to be learning to hold the joy and the grief. And so we wanted to represent the joy and the grief. And I hope we did a good job of doing that. I hope that we showed the joy that I see when Kay talks about Catherine. And yeah, it's an ever ongoing journey, holding both of these incredibly powerful things in your life. And yeah, I hope people can walk out of the theater or walk out of their living room having a little bit more faith and strength to hold both of those things in their lives.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks again for both of you making such a beautiful and strong film, and be able to share it with the world, and here in the Bay Area at SF Doc Fest. So thanks again, Kay and James, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Or morning for Kay.
Okay.